russosbrand.com, where the pros are the pros.
From my experience, at least, I don't know, I'm sure other people have different things they went through becoming a wrestling fan, but what I remember growing up as kids, we didn't watch wrestling because we wanted to watch WWF. We watched it because we wanted to watch Hulk Hogan. Correct. And then like Attitude Era got popular again. It was the same thing. We got to see this Steve Austin guy. Yeah. You know, and then eventually, you know, okay, WWF, WWE, we know what that is now. We want to watch that. But still through time, whether it's The Rock, Cena, to Roman and Cody, you know who the guy is. Yeah. AEW, it just seemed, who is AEW? It's almost like we're promoting AEW in itself, but there's not like the guy that could pull in people. Do you think they'd be better off trying to just pick one guy and, you know, doing something like that and then drawing people to their company just because of one guy, and then they can, you know, get with everybody else?
Let's face it, that's the way it's always worked. You know, you can go back to the territory days. There was always usually one main guy. Florida, it was Dusty Rhodes, Georgia. Well, at one point it was Tommy Rich. He was the top babyface, Memphis, Lawler, Minnesota. Usually it was Vern, if not Vern, Nick Bockwinkel. There was one guy at the top that everybody was scrambling to get to. I can go down the list of other territories where there was that one guy that was always somewhere around at the top. Flair was in, Charlotte, and then became world champion and, going around up in WWF. Bruno for years. Then, there was that run with Billy Graham, and then, put it on Bob Backlund. Bob then was at the top for years, and that was, that was done as a lesson to show Bruno that, it wasn't, Vince Sr. could put that title on anybody and make it draw. And, Bob had that run, but then it was Hogan, so there always is that singular point, Indianapolis in Chicago, Dick the Bruiser, and some people might want to argue or disagree, but that you always have in the past, you've always had that, and AEW doesn't have that. And remember when Moxley had went over he was like the first guy to jump, remember? And I remember on the show, I brought it up like a couple months later. I was like, is it just me? Or was Moxley a star in WWE and now in AEW? Like, he doesn't, like, the shines went off of him, and nobody cares, anymore. Back, when he first jumped, it was like, whoa, and the shine went off fast. Edge went over there, and, and boy, the shines just went right off of him too. Several guys who have jumped from WWE and went there, like, that rub off of WWE just gets erased, and then they just get lost in the shuffle. Mercedes Moné, again, Saraya, just wipes the shine off of them, and it dulls them down, and they no longer look like stars. It's really, really surprising, and that has to do with that lack of leadership and direction and singular vision. And Tony's taking an approach with, bringing these ex-WWE guys over just for that initial pop of a reaction. And then, like, okay, well, now I've got an extra action figure. I'm just going to put it back in the case, and, we'll bring it out when we think it fits, So he doesn't have a direct plan or an idea of, he just sees a guy, like, say, Edge, Adam Copeland, and he goes, oh, that'd be cool. What if we brought Edge over here? He could have a match with so-and-so, and that'd be really cool. That isn't the way the wrestling business works. It's, hey, Edge is now available. His contract's expired. Do you think we can bring him in and use him or have him work with this guy that's ours? He's our AEW guy. And by Edge coming in, give our guy the rub and elevate our guy and either put more heat on our guy or get our guy more over. They did the same thing in TNA, and what they did and what they do, and this is one thing Vince was brilliant about doing. Because if you remember when Ric Flair came over, when he jumped from WCW and he went to WWF, what did Vince do with him? He brought him in as Ric Flair, but he didn't have him beating anybody for a long time, if you remember correctly. He'd be in the mix, but he was there primarily to put WWF guys over until he got to be known as a WWF guy, and then started putting him over. So in TNA, for instance, those guys constantly did this. They take Christian, for instance. Nothing against Christian, great guy, but in WWF, what was he? WWE, he was a mid-card guy, correct? When he went to TNA, he immediately came out and was where? On the top. So what did you just subconsciously tell your audience?
It's easier here than it is up there.
Yep, a mid-card guy is better than our entire roster with WWF. And they repeatedly did that, even to the point of great guy, Aaron Stevens, who was Miz's stunt double. What was
Mizdow? Yeah,
Mizdow, Sandow, Damian Sandow, right? Now you got a big card comedy guy. He comes in, he wins the title. So what you now say, that mid-card comedy guy in WWF that everyone beat now is able to beat all of our TNA guys. So clearly WWF is better than TNA. WWE is better than TNA. And when you keep repeatedly doing that and not using that outside external talent to elevate your internal talent, you keep teaching your audience that the other company, the competition, are all around better than you because they have better talent to offer the audience. How do we know that? Well, because their mid-card talent comes in and are at the top of your card and now are better than all the rest of the talent you said were stars to us. Well, clearly they're not. Otherwise, this guy'd have to come in at the bottom or in the middle and work his way up. And he doesn't. He just comes right in at the top and boom. And again, there are no carved in stone rules, but the right person comes in, you can do those things, and in the right situation where they come right over and they make a big impression, and but that's got to be the exception, not the rule, because typically you bring a Miro in, and then of course the shine wore off of it. The audience no longer sees him as a star, and neither does Tony Khan, and now he just gets put away and then not used at all, not utilized one bit. Very poor management of talent in that manner, and again, that comes from, this will be cool, it'll get the fans talking, we'll get so-and-so to jump and come over to us, and that'll build us up. Not, so-and-so's open and available, hey, do you think we can do some business with this guy and bring him in and build him up and have him work with this guy and maybe get heat and get our guy over in the long run? There's not that thought process in it, and so as a result, it's literally, to Bischoff's credit, he's absolutely correct. It does seem like it's where wrestlers' careers go to die, unless they get lucky, can do the loop back to WWE and reinvigorate themselves.